Call the Regional Council meeting to order. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. Should virtual attendees wish to address council during either the public comment period or the question and answer period, use the raise hands feature on your webinar controls. And when prompted and it's your turn, unmute your microphone, state your name, ask your question. Once your question has ended, you will be muted again. I have no additions. Are there any councillor additions tonight? No councillor additions? Any CAO additions?
No, Mayor.
Very well. I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the Regional Council meeting July 12th, 2021, Special Regional Council July 12th, 2021. Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Ms. McIver, are there any virtual attendees who wish to comment on the agenda tonight?
No hands raised by the looks of it.
Thank you. Petitions and delegations. Northern BC Tourism Association, presentation of the Great Northern Circle Route Signage Master Plan. April.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, April.
Hi, nice to see you all. Mayor Foster and Regional Council, thank you so much for hosting this conversation today. Our CEO, Clint Fraser, sends his regrets, and I'm here in his place. And for anyone I don't know, my name is April Moy, and I'm the Destination Development Specialist with Northern BC Tourism Association. So your region is such an important champion when it comes to evolving the Alaska Highway Corridor. You know firsthand how much signage is needed, not only to support wayfinding and visitor experiences, but also to ensure safety of travelers in remote northern regions. And your work on the Gotta Go project was an important stepping stone to leading us to where we are today. And we're happy to be partners on that process. Part of the work we've done under our destination development planning in conjunction with the advisory committees has identified signage and developing thematic corridors as priorities. And with the recent distribution of the targeted regional tourism development funding through the province of BC, we are finally able to dedicate significant resources to this work. And as a regional destination management organization, we feel fortunate to be leading this important project to better develop our visitor infrastructure in Northern BC. So to this end, we have engaged Aldrich Pears and Associates, a design and interpretive planning firm, to undertake the work. And Aldrich Pears also is familiar to the area, as was involved with the Alaska Highway House in Dawson Creek. And I would like to introduce you to John DeWolf with APA, who has spent many years doing signage projects all over North America. And John will walk you through the work that is being undertaken to develop the Great Northern Circle Route Signage Master Plan, which will guide phase 1 of the implementation, which is a $1 million investment of remarkable signage infrastructure being installed throughout Northern BC, and is also funded through the province of BC's TRTD fund with a considerable contribution from Destination BC. So John, I invite you to take it away, and thank you. Good to see you all.
Thank you, April.
Great, thank you, April, Mayor Foster, and everyone else at the meeting. Thank you very much. I'm John DeWolf from Aldrich Pears, and I'm actually phoning in from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Today we have offices on both sides of the country. So I'm just going to pull up a screen if you can bear with me. I hope everyone can see that.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you very much for having us present tonight. So we have a number of projects going on with Northern BC Tourism, and Northern BC Tourism is involved in quite a few projects throughout the region. The first one that Aldrich Pears is involved in is the Thematic Framework. And this is a project that involves our interpretive planners and researchers to research stories and from those develop themes. And these are going to be very important for all the projects that are being done, in particular, the signage program, so the look and feel of the signage, the interpretive component, but it's also going to have some influence on other projects like branding. Placemaking and place branding. Destination BC is currently working on place branding for all of British Columbia. And one of the things that we're focusing on is Destination Think is working with these organizations to focus on the Northern BC brand component. And for us, it's going to be essential that these two work together, signage and branding. Now, branding doesn't necessarily always mean that color palettes and fonts have to match, but we're all trying to achieve the same result, which is a positive visitor experience that brings back more people. And that's the core idea of what a brand is. We're talking today about the signage plan, and that's the area of focus that I'm working on. And we're in the phase 1 implementation that April just introduced. The signage plan is going to involve a master plan, and with a particular focus on the signs that need to be, or we have funding to install in 2022. And those include gateway signs, interpretive and orientation signs, and a particular focus on Indigenous languages and how they'll fit in, as well as orientation signage. And this is all stuff that we're planning to install for 2022, which is probably just around the corner. The master plan includes design for numerous signs. So not just the signs that we mentioned or I mentioned on the previous screen, but quite a few different signs that all back up the same notion of providing good visitor experience to help them around this area. We'll have multiple sign types. There'll be location plans and message schedules. So location plans meaning generally where do the signs go? Message schedules meaning what does each sign say? There'll be drawings for fabrication and installation. And I think the importance of any signage program is also developing memorandums of understanding with various agencies, districts, townships, communities, to make sure that once the signs go in the ground, there's also a long-term plan for their maintenance and updates. We also are well aware that other municipal signage programs are underway. Burns Lake and Prince George is one of those, and we've been speaking with various groups, including those two communities and others, to make sure that we have a sense of what regions or what districts or what communities are already planning signage, those that have recently installed, or those that need help with a long-term signage plan. And the reason for this is looking for filling in the gaps, making sure that we aren't duplicating services and overlapping different sign programs. Why signage? Northeastern and Northwest destination have developed a 10-year destination development strategies. And of those, there are 3 goals that this project supports: make British Columbia the most highly recommended destination in North America, create strategic plans for tourism development and improve return on investment for government and private sector investments in tourism assets, and to elevate British Columbia's ability to compete as a premium destination while making the province more attractive for investment. And all that can happen with signage, with brand, and all these other projects that are underway. So we are in the pre-design phase at the moment. We're developing a project understanding. We're interviewing the various stakeholders. And so I'm going to show you some examples of the types of signs that we plan on designing, but by showing the work of other people. Gateway signs. There will probably be numerous sizes of these, from grand gateways that welcome visitors and guests to some smaller versions of these. These are key for a few reasons, not only welcoming guests and making sure they know they've arrived, but I think gateways are also becoming a key feature for people to take selfies and post to social media channels. Route markers for a long distance trail or route like this one, knowing that you're on the path is critical. And this can happen in a number of different forms as well. I think banners within towns are a great way to inform that you're en route. And I think they're also an opportunity to promote regional attractions and other destinations. Directional signage, we're probably all familiar with that and what that means. I think an important part of this system will be working with our partners, for instance, MOTI, to develop green and white and blue white signs that they have total control, and we have sort of little control, but we have influence over the messaging. And then there will be areas that we can have a bespoke or a custom signage system throughout the northern BC area. And that's critical because for visitors, they want to be assured that we're taking care of them and showing them the right way. And when they recognize this system throughout the region, that insurance helps build a stronger brand for the area. We have pullovers and roadside pull-offs, and there will be interpretive signage throughout. And this is where the thematic framework does a good job at informing the stories that need to be told to help the visitor understand the cultural heritage stories of the regions. And we have some trailhead signage or information signage. Those could appear at trailheads. They could also appear at visitor centers. And those give the user an overview of activities that could take place in the entire region or in the zone that they find themselves within that region. And how does this help communities? Well, the idea of having a master plan means that there will be a document that's provided that shows all the various sign types in the system. And the master plan will help communities and districts plan for and budget for signs for future plans. There will be descriptions of signs, how to use them, where they should go, how they should be built, and how they should be installed. And I think that's really critical for communities like yours. I think for one thing, it saves vital civic funds across the area. So it means that small communities who might have a hard time hiring professionals to do this have a document that they can refer to. Obviously, it improves the user's experience as well. If a user finds a destination with ease and doesn't get lost, then that leads to building a stronger brand. More important, if while looking for their destination, they find additional attractions, that's going to lead to longer stays. I think no visitor to BC will ever probably write home about the signage, but if they write home and talk to their friends about all the great destinations that they didn't know existed or that they found when they were there, then that's again going to promote the Northern BC brand. And then I think it's also important that while the visitor is traveling around, we mentioned this before, that once they start seeing a similar sign system from community to community, there's going to be a sense of assurance that we're taking care of them on their visit. And I guess the final thing is that it needs to be flexible. So the last thing we're trying to do is go in and tell communities they have to adopt this or take down their old system. What we're trying to do is build upon older systems or legacy systems that maybe are good and add some other signs that help make them even better. And on top of that, there will be situations where communities already have strong sign programs and we're just looking to augment their system. This project is well underway already. So we're in the startup and discovery phase, which mostly involves meeting with stakeholders and listening to people and communities about their desires, their wishes, the problems that visitors encounter. We're moving into the programming strategy, so summer and fall 2021. So what is the strategy for delivering people around the province? How's that going to work, and how's that going to relate to the thematic framework and branding? And then soon we'll start getting into what the signs look like. So we're not there at the moment. That's followed by detailed design. And then we document this in a master plan that can be shared with various agencies. And I guess this brings us to, what do we need from you? So from our perspective as a design team, we need to know those elements of signs, systems, or like policies, the big one in bylaw, that are going to dictate or influence our design. So we need to have a strong understanding in order for us to coordinate and work with multiple jurisdictions on this long-term signage and maintenance plan. So I think one of the things that we're looking for information on, and this can be passed on to April or Amber or a number of other people at Martina at Destination, MB Northern Tourism, sorry, April. But an important part for us is who we can speak to regarding your signage bylaws, your policy, and your maintenance. It's really critical that we develop a sign system that's implementable, that fits within policy and bylaw. And as we're developing the memorandums of understanding, that it can be maintained long-term. We're also interested in knowing if you have specific signage needs for your area that we need to or should be aware of. And over the course of this project, we're keenly interested in identifying a single source that could be our primary contact that we could work with on those above elements. So bylaw, policy, who maintains signs, what group is that, how's that done, etc. And I think a fourth point is that while we're developing signs, there may be other groups in your organization or in your district that might also be interpretive experts or have the best sense of the culture and heritage of place. Those that are working on other signage projects, perhaps. And we know that one of the key assets for getting people out of the vehicles is trails. So maybe there's a trail group that we should be speaking to as well. So in addition to that primary contact for bylaw and policy, if there are related projects that you know of that we should be speaking to people about, could you send a primary contact for those people in your district as well? How to stay informed? As this project progresses, we've built a website. It's launched already. Currently, it just gives an overview of the two projects, the Thematic Framework project and the GNCR Signage Master Plan. I hope everyone's still there. There was a bit of a blank.
Hey, so I've just been told that the power has gone out at Town Hall again. So I'm still here, but I think everyone in the chambers is dark right now.
Okay.
They're just, yeah, I got that text too, and they're just working on getting it restarted.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, thanks for the update, John.
Hey, so while we wait, and keeping in mind that we're still recording. Oh, just got another message. They got a message that said they'll be right back, and then I got another message that said, oh, power's out again. So I'm not exactly sure where they are. But my question is some of this work has been done already, right? Because I know I got an email as a counselor. Okay, so the backup generator has fired up again and they're waiting. So they should be on momentarily. But I got an email to complete a survey, and the survey questions were much similar to what you just asked for. If we had any signage projects in the work, point of contact and all that. So, and I know that staff have been working with Destination BC too. So is this just another component of that, or?
Lorraine, I think this is another component of this, of the other projects. I'll look into the survey. We're working very closely with Destination BC because there's the Iconics initiative, and then we are, our work is in alignment with the Destination BC work. So I'm assuming that the survey that you received had something to do with their work.
Yeah, and it might not have been a survey. It might have been an email just asking those questions. And I know the email came from Clint, and our Krista Vandersteen is very aware of that. So
For sure.
she might be somebody to talk to about that too.
Yeah, exactly. And Krista has been very much involved with us for sure. Oh, and I see everybody's back there
yeah.
listening to our conversation.
We're back in business again.
That's
Sorry
great.
about that. We've had a power interruption here. I believe last we'd heard from Mr. DeWolf.
Yes. Can you hear me still?
Yes.
Great. So I can't remember where we left this off, but essentially we are looking for a single primary contact who would be the best person to talk to or coordinate through those logistics about bylaw, policy, and generally sign maintenance long-term as well. If there is someone in your district, you could provide a name to us, that would be great.
So, Mr. DeWolf, what we'll do is I'll get our administrator to assign someone to this and contact you with their name.
Fantastic. It should go through April's office. I believe
Sure.
it's Martina, who's our primary contact, but Martina, Amber, or April will be able to get that information to us. And then the second part of this, if you know there are other similar projects taking place, other signage projects, interpretation, maybe trail projects, those might have individual contact people that we'd be interested in talking to as well for your district.
Very well, and I'm sure Mr. Barry, when he assigns someone to this, they'll be very familiar with any of those projects in our area.
Fantastic. I know we're running a little longer on time. We had a little interruption, but I just want you to know that you can contact Northern BC Tourism. We have developed a website that's launched. Right now, it has the timelines for the Thematic Framework and the Great Northern Circle Route Signage Master Plan project. As these projects move forward, those will become more robust with information, and they're a great portal for asking for content, but also to go to and refer to, so you guys can get an update at any point on where we are with this project.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And I guess that's about it for the presentation. And we are, of course, here to answer any questions you might have.
Councillors, do you have any questions for Mr. DeWolf? Hearing none, I guess we will conclude this, Mr. DeWolf. Thank you, and thank you, April, for your time tonight, and we will be in
Thank you.
touch.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Best to all. Thank you.
We still have Councillor Roper and Councillor Gerwing on. We haven't lost them? No? Good.
Still here.
No, I'm still here.
Super, even through all this, great. Moving on then, admin report number 50, fourth quarter grant and aid requests, Family Development Society, Mile 300 Figure Skating Club, and the Northern Rockies Arts Council. Does anybody have any comments on this? Very well. I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the 3 applications for 2021 fourth quarter grant and aid program be approved in principle. Moved by
Second that.
Councillor. Very well. Seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Admin report number 51, lease renewal for Play School. Ms. McIver.
Yeah, so the report's just in front of council because we're just approaching the expiration of that agreement. And as you'll recall, last year, council wanted to enter into just a single year lease because there was some concessions given with the lease to assist the Play School in managing expenses as a result of COVID and lower registrations and so on. So essentially their lease currently sits at $100 annually plus about $5,000 a year in lieu of utilities. They've indicated that they would like to renew on those terms, but we need council's direction in terms of how to proceed with that renewal.
Any comments, councillors? Very well. Does someone like to make a motion? Councillor Gerwing.
Yeah, I would make a motion to extend the lease for another year at last year's rent prices.
Very well. Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Admin report number 52, bookkeeping transition theater and library. I'd like to declare.
Mayor Foster, I'm gonna declare a conflict and step out for this.
Very well. Both you, Councillor Roper and Councillor Andrews are declaring a conflict, so I'll give you a couple of moments to remove yourselves and then we will carry on. 2, 3, 4, we got it, okay. Very well, is there any discussion on this?
I think it makes complete sense. I was thinking about it after the meeting and thought that it was kind of a short timeline. And so I would have no problem in extending it to the end of December. It seems to make sense.
Mrs. Pike, you were going to speak to this. Do you have anything to add?
Nothing more than what's in the administration report, but I can answer any questions.
Very well. In that case, I will ask for a motion then.
I'll make that motion.
Seconded by Councillor Souls. All those in favor? Carried. And can you ask Councillor Andrews to step back in, please? Admin report number 53, Historical Society Budget Amendment, that the 2021 grant to support capital purposes for the Fort Nelson Historical Society be increased from $817,000 to $1.232 million. The contribution from the appropriation surplus to be increased from $714,000 to $1.13 million. Pre-approval to be given for the 2022 capital budget in the amount of $100,000. And that all permitting fees and deposits be waived. Mrs. Pike, did you want to speak to this, please?
Yes, please. So this report is multifaceted in that there's a few recommendations. We understand that the museum is proceeding with their expansion. They delayed it from 2020 due to higher than anticipated bids. Going into 2021, it was retendered, and in order to award the contract, they had some project modifications, specifically the roofing material. Along with that, what we're seeing is that the amount approved in the 2021 budget may not allow adequate cash flows of the 2-year project over 2021 and 2022. So we are supporting the request to flow those funds in 2021 if necessary, as needed. And along with that, based on the project budget that has been pretty much stretched to the limit to be able to proceed, we would like to gain pre-approval of the 2022 capital funding only, not the operational side, and that amounts to 100,000. One more piece that we have in there is that historically, in the past, we have waived building permit fees and deposits. More recently for the, I think it was 2013 for the seniors center. And we are seeking to have, to see if council would be amenable to waiving those deposits as well. Along with that, I understand that there are representatives from the Historical Society in the audience this evening. Should council have any questions that they would be able to respond to.
Thank you. Mrs. Zaglinski, I understand, and Ms. Starr, the late Marl Brown had a vision for building this new addition, and it included steel shake shingles on that, and that has since been canceled. Is that correct?
Yes and no. Yes, he approved was okay with the shingle roof as long as they were now, yes. I'm not sure how to word that properly. It was gonna put the project out of reach about an extra $150,000, and we don't have it basically over. I think when we first spoke of the project and talked about the tin roof, he envisioned the typical tin roof that you see on, homes or even some of our municipal buildings, little, every 6 feet, there's a bit of a bump that's just, ugly and industrial. Not what he wanted to see on the new museum, not what he wanted to see on the old museum. So we had, committed to trying to make sure that we had something. He's very fond of the cedar shakes. Those aren't smart in our climate. So we did tell him we would do everything in our power to come up with something that looked close, which we found these cedar, aluminum cedar shakes. They're beautiful, but they're very expensive. They're very labor intensive to put on. So yeah.
So I'll tell you, given what Marl Brown contributed to the community over the years, to the whole community all up and down the Alaska Highway, I would think that if this was his vision, I think $150,000 is not an exorbitant amount of money to add to this project to see that it's done the way that Marl Brown wanted it to be done. I don't know how the rest of council feels about that, but I would like to see the museum, this addition to the museum, built the way that Marl Brown had envisioned it, without cutting corners and trying to, bring it into something that was less than what he wanted. And I say that because of all the years that Marl devoted to this community.
So Mayor, in order to, I think what I heard you say was that you're wondering if council would like to increase the allocation to the Historical Society in order to have the Marl Brown roofing material, if I can say it that way. If we could provide a recommendation that those funds come from Northern Rockies general surplus.
Yes. So I would like some comments from Councillor Souls.
I think that we just got out of a discussion from a tourism focused discussion and pulling together tourism ideas that make this a part of a great destination. The most popular destination in North America was the term used. And without a doubt, the museum has been one of the most popular museums in the North America from the visitors that I've talked to and others. I think that that's a great idea. I am in favor of your suggestion. I think that's a good idea.
Any other comments, councillors? Counselor Andrews.
I like the idea as well. So that's above and beyond what is in the report today. And with that clarification, general surplus. Yeah, I think it's an amazing idea and I commend you for the recommendation there.
Thank you. I'll make that motion. Counselor Sewell, would you like to second that motion? Very well. All those in favor? Carried.
I have a question about the 100,000 capital pre-approval.
Yes,
Mrs. Pike, would you like to speak to that?
So I think I heard you speak as if that $100,000 yearly capital allotment is like a fait accompli. Does council have the opportunity to vote on whether that capital contribution is going to be $100,000 each year? Is that not correct?
so historically, what we have seen in the budget for the Historical Society is a $200,000 contribution to their budget. And historically, that has been about 50-50 operating and capital. And council certainly debates the budgets annually and those amounts.
Thank you. So my
Mr. Barry?
concern,
I'm sorry.
I believe Mr. Barry wanted to comment on your
I was
question.
just confirming that the question that
Okay.
Councilor Goring was asking was answered. The simple answer, I guess, would be yes, council can elect, I guess, to not provide that amount of funding if they wish during the budget deliberations, for sure.
Very well. Counselor Goring, go ahead.
yeah, so my concern with a pre-approval of $100,000 is that, you know, we don't know what next year is going to look like yet. We've made other decisions in the past not to do pre-approvals. So I'm just wondering if there isn't some sort of other solution that can be found other than committing to a pre-approval of $100,000. Because how do you do it for one group and not another group is, I guess, my concern.
Well, I can speak to that.
Sure,
quickly,
go ahead,
and
Mr.
then
Barry.
Tony can correct me or add more to it. So councils, there's various options. I mean, if council is looking to look after the potential shortfall in required funding, or if there is one, it could essentially all come out of general surplus and be put back in the surplus of council elected next year, for example, so say if the $100,000 was in question, you could take that at a general surplus currently. And then if council elected as one option next year to approve the similar budgets as has been historical for the museum, it could be put back in the general surplus at that time. So approve at that time. Am I making sense? Versus committing to that. And a resolution could speak to that now. You can look at it at that time, however council wishes.
Mrs. Pike, do you have anything further to add to that?
No, I think I followed CAO Barry's path on that. And that's an appropriate path.
Counselor Penny.
I just want to clarify, so having this pre-approval, or if we make the amendment that we take it from surplus, this is needed to just ensure that the completion of this project. Without that 100,000 at this point, it would put them possibly in question to be able to do the project over the next 2 years.
I'm going to leave that for the Historical Society to answer, but my understanding is that the 100,000 are for basically project closeout costs that would relate in addition to, but I'm going to let them speak to it.
Our budget is tight. Tighter than we would have liked. One week in our capital storage. Sorry, our budget is tighter than we would like, based on a variety of factors. One being our capital reserves, for reasons laid out in there, weren't as high as we had expected.
what the $100,000 does is does give us a bit of a buffer, gives us the contingents, a larger contingency, because our contingency is very small. We do have some concerns. We do, if anything, you know, is to go awry with this project, it's likely going to happen within the next month, right off the get-go. So it just gives us some breathing room, more than anything else. And did you want to add anything?
Also, I guess the other thing is this project is going to be going into 2022, and it's just, if everything goes on schedule, they should be finished sort of around the same time, or maybe even a little bit before your budgets are finished. And so this would just allow us to access those funds sort of at that time, instead of having to wait until the budgets are completely approved. And yeah, so that's, and I think if we don't run into any problems, we shouldn't need that 100,000 for the actual building, but we should, as Kim said, know prior, like by the time we're doing our budgets, we should know. So.
Okay, thank you. Need a motion, Ms. McIver.
To pass a resolution, yeah. So I'm not sure if you would like to amend one of the options that are listed based on council's discussion versus the pre-approval versus a allocation from general surplus. You could part it out. So say option one there's kind of three parts to that one. So if you want to break it up so that it captures more what council's aiming at, that might make it a bit easier for you.
Does
Councillor Andrews.
Does option 2 sort of encapsulate what we were talking about? So the permit fees are waived, the changing of the funding is covered. It just takes out that grant, the pre-approval for the capital. And then we could deal with that issue separately.
Yep.
Councillor Andrews,
I was just gonna make a motion for recommendation number 1.
any other comment? Councillor
really-
Penny.
Second that.
Very well. Okay, we've got a motion on the floor by Councillor Andrews. This recommendation number 1. We have a seconder, Councillor Penny. I'll ask for a vote then, if there's no further comment on that. All those in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed and wish to be recorded, please.
Okay, Councillor Gerwing's opposed. Thank you. Moving on, administration report number 54, credit card payments for property taxes and utility accounts. Ms. Pike.
Yes, thank you. This is one of the exciting projects that Treasury is currently implementing, an e-commerce software solution called Virtual City Hall, which will allow a customer to, from the comfort of their own home, in whatever attire they choose, hop on, look at their tax bill, their utility bill, their receivables, and make payments. The payments would be by credit card. Currently, we do not accept credit card payments in any manner for taxes or utilities, as the fees associated with each of the individual types of cards are vary, and they're fairly high. What we've been able to find is a credit card processing agreement that will limit the fee on credit card use to less than 1%. Then again, we took another look at it and we said, would we like to allow these charges to be just business as usual, a cost of doing business? Or would we like to impose a fee for customers who choose to pay their bills using this option with a credit card through Virtual City Hall. If you are paying taxes or utilities, you have a multitude of options available right now as well: cash, check, debit card at the front counter, or online banking payments. So we are recommending that we seek a 1% fee for processing of credit card payments through Virtual City Hall.
Any comments, councillors? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion then.
I'll make a motion. Recommendation number 1.
Seconder, please. Seconded by councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Administration report number 55. Associate member insurance tree falling. This is Aspen.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this report here came to you in a rather lengthy process trying to source someone locally who can assess and remove our dangerous trees. Our previous contractors who we have used in the past are no longer able to hold the liability insurance required for entering into a service agreement with them for operation on our facilities and grounds. So in looking for other options, we approached or put a request for interest in the community to see if anybody with the certifications and insurance was interested in entering into a service agreement with them. And we had no response at that time and have looked non-locally and have also not had a lot of concrete interest in traveling up here. And the ones that are able to are currently involved in wildfire services. So again, it would be probably September before we were able to get someone. So looking for a alternate option, our Municipal Insurance Association of BC, MIABC, offers an associate member program that would allow us to assume the risk of a particular contractor for a fee of $750 per year per associate member. And that program requires the approval of council to enter into this agreement and acknowledge that the NRM would be responsible for damages under the deductible, so $10,000. And any adverse impacts may impact our premiums.
And so this would be for just the one individual, the one company then?
That's correct.
And the total cost of the municipality would see $750 with a deductible of $10,000.
Correct.
Very well. Any comments, councillors? Councillor Souls.
There used to be 50 of us in town that could do this. There's only one left. So when I look forward, I say, maybe this is a good short-term solution. Short-term.
Very well. Would you like to make that motion then, Councillor Souls?
Yes, I would.
Very well.
He's worth it.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Goring, you're in favor? Councillor Goring, you're muted at the
Yeah.
moment.
I know I'm
Okay.
muted. I can't, it takes a little bit for me to get off. So unless I get back on there, just say I'm in favor, please.
Okay, Councillor Goring's in
that.
favor. It's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Aspen, for that. Administration report number 56. Request to waive purchasing policy interim landfill operations Speaking to the report, Mr. David Dominic.
Good evening. So the report in front of you today is just to give you a little bit of background. In July 2018, the landfill operations and maintenance contract was awarded to Wide Sky for the initial price of $373,417.56. In preparation for the agreement's expiry, upon review, it became apparent there was no way to renew or extend this contract. In May of 2021, Regional Council resolved to separate the opportunities for the landfill operations and maintenance and the waste scale attendance shack into two separate opportunities. Work has been ongoing since January 2021 to renew the existing landfill operations opportunity for tendering to meet the August 31st agreement expiry, and to fulfill Council's decision to separate the waste scale operations from the landfill operations contract. Significant changes had to take place to basically create a new scale operations contract from scratch, therefore separating both of them into two opportunities. To maintain the current level of service to the community as a whole and to satisfy the legal and permit requirements that the NRRM is bound by, it is recommended that NRRM engage with Wide Sky Disposal to operate and maintain the landfill and scale to October 31st, 2021. In the absence of renewal or extension provisions in the existing agreement, the NRRM would be required to enter a new short-term agreement, which would be a month-to-month of the landfill operations and maintenance. And the cost of this, upon expiry of the current agreement would be approximately $32,000 a month. And under the NRRM purchasing policy, the landfill operations and maintenance contract, the value of it, and basically even it being prorated on a monthly basis, entering into a new agreement would trigger a new public procurement process. And essentially what we're asking is that Regional Council waive the purchasing policy that the NRRM has and enter into a short-term agreement for the landfill operations and maintenance with Wide Sky, and ending in October 31st, 2021, to allow appropriate time to procure the two new opportunities and tender them and analyze them and award.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Dominic? Very well. Hearing none, I will ask for a motion then. The recommendation.
Motion.
Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Administration report number 57. Business Walks Program, Ms. Vandersteen.
Hello, Mayor and Council. So this is just a for information report. I know Council has heard about business walks a couple times in the past, and we did talk about the COVID-19 version that we did last year, quite a bit last year during all the special COVID meetings. We did one that was over the telephone last year. So we're looking to work with the Chamber of Commerce again and to hopefully get back to an in-person one in late September. So I just wanted to bring it forward to Council, get any feedback if there is any, and hopefully we'll, once we have secured dates, we'll email that out because it will likely be in between meetings.
Excellent. Any questions for Ms. Vandersteen? Hearing none, I guess we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Admin report number 58, 911 connection points along Highway 97 and Highway 9077. Mr. Mike Gilbert, would you care to speak to this report?
Just briefly, Mayor, I think the report speaks for itself. I would draw Council's attention to the fact that Mr. Miller, referenced in the report, is present in the gallery over the mayor's shoulder. He didn't come with the intent of speaking, but he wants to round out his understanding through getting the context of the questions and discussion that might ensue the report. We will be, for Council's information, Glenn and staff will be traveling up highway to get boots on the ground and firsthand observations of potential first stage emergency access points along the highway. The update that doesn't appear or isn't prominent in the report has been developed today, and that is that Public Works Canada has entered into the discussion and has been very positive and very supportive of the endeavor, and has offered access to their existing infrastructure, which will cut costs and should simplify installations. So it should speed the process. The first stage, I think, as is outlined in the report, will involve a small number initially of what the province refers to for funding purposes as call stations. The modality of contact, etc., will be determined as a part of the outcome of Mr. Miller's work. And we expect that before he exits on Wednesday, we will have rudiments of the substance for a screening report, which is a screening application, which is the application to get the application. And thereafter, we will be able to proceed. We anticipate, given numerous and extended conversations with high-level senior staff in the province, that we'll be successful in that endeavor, and that by October, there will be something again with specific numbers in front of council for their approval so that we can move forward, and with work to take place in the spring on, as was said, a small number of installations as a phase one to be followed by subsequent phases.
Very well. Are there any questions for Mr. Gilbert?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Councilor Goring.
So thank you, Mayor. It might be a little bit early in the game, but when I read this report, I thought, you know, it would be great if we had access points all over the highway, but given that we don't and aren't going to for a while, I think that this is a brilliant idea. And I just wanted to make sure that the signage, that we're not going to run into problems, because I think there needs to be appropriate signage along the highway, sort of informing people where these sites are and what they are. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point. Probably, like I said, it's a little bit early in the game, but I think we need more than just a sign at the spot. And I just want to make sure that we're not going to run into difficulty with the feds on putting up appropriate signage.
With reference to the councillor's point, we actually incorporated that into previous discussions and our discussion today. And we're investigating the possibility of not only identifying where these sites are installed and how far ahead they may be on the highway, but likewise points of access involving existing cellular that may exist, so that as travelers move through our area, they will know how far it is to some point of emergency access, whether it be an established call box or access to existing cellular service, because it's not clearly identified by other means.
That's great.
Again, Public Works has been very supportive and have indicated that that signage may be a cost to them.
Excellent. You know, as we mentioned today, as I spoke to Mr. Miller, you know, about Americans traveling up the highway before we had 911 service, our American travelers didn't know that they didn't have cell service or 911 service, or even when they did get cell service, they weren't aware that they didn't have 911 service. So I think any of this signage is a good idea. We've also today had Northern BC Tourism talk about signage along the highway, and perhaps something can be worked out so that their signs and the signs that speak to cell coverage or how far the call boxes might even be incorporated into that as well. So if you're going to have a sign that you're going to draw the public's attention to, that would be great. I guess one other point that I'll make is that both you, Mr. Blaine, and Ms. Jacobs done excellent work in getting this connectivity up and running. And I know the progress has been slow and it has been baby steps, but we are making progress, and we're making progress every day on this file, and we've got 911 service now. And we'll keep working on that. And I think we've got the ear of the provincial government and a lot of people in citizen services to help us with that. So I think the wind's at our back with this, and I think we will get more and more traction on this file. And I wanted to thank all three of you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. What I would say is as I look around the table, I think everybody here works for the neighbors.
Thank you.
With regard to the notion of combined purpose signage, that's also in the works, and part of those discussions with Public Works was that points of contact would be identified on their kiosks, mapping, and things of that nature. And we would do that on our mapping as well.
Councillor Souls.
Sometimes ideas overlap, and this is connectivity along the highway also overlaps with the Gotta Go program. And I think of how those two things can be leveraged against each other. The expansion, when you start looking at access points for phone contact coverage, there's an assumption that you're pulled over beside the side of the road. You're not driving down the highway. That same need is there for the Gotta Go program. So if this can be the system that expands the Gotta Go program, then we should make that linkage happen. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments?
Mayor, further to
Yes.
the councilor's comments, it is a requirement for in the funding regime that any contact points that we establish under this funding are at approved pullout points. So that it does overlap quite well.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments on this? Very well, we'll move on. Northern Rockies Region Municipality Industrial Revitalization Tax Exemption Bylaw. And speaking to this, it's just for adoption. So could I ask for a motion that we adopt this tax exemption bylaw? Moved by Councillor Soul, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. I keep missing him. He's just so tiny on that screen there. Northern Rockies Region Municipality Board of Variance Bylaw number 195 for adoption. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Correspondence, Northern Rockies Region Municipality letter to the Honorable George Hyman, Minister of Environment and Climate Change Strategy, opening of the Muncho Lake Provincial Campground. Are there any comments on that? Northern Rockies letter to George Hyman, Minister of the Environment, Climate Change Strategy, the Nonda Tower Road Bridge removal. Any comments on that? Very well. Speaking to Mr. Barry today, we suggested that maybe we ask for a meeting with Minister Heyman to see if we can't talk to him in person regarding the Nonda Tower Road Bridge. Is there any comments on whether we should reach out to the minister for a face-to-face or a Zoom to Zoom?
I'm totally in favor of that. It's about time, I think.
Very well.
I'd support a meeting with them for sure.
We need a resolution for that, or can we just simply instruct council to or staff to do that?
We good for resolution, Mayor.
Okay, moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And NRM letter to John Abel, Geothermal Project Manager, letter expressing support for Fort Nelson First Nations geothermal project. Received for information, council information package from July 14th, 21st, 28th, and August 4th. New business items, we have none. Mr. Barry, residents of Fedview Road and Tasma Crescent request for paving. Would you like to speak to this, please?
Yeah, sure, Mayor. I received this from Mr. West Sutherland a while ago. It was triggered most likely from our application of calcium on the gravel roads, which is never is not necessarily a favorable option from a dust suppressant, but it's a more cost-effective option for dealing with dust suppression. The process of going through a petition is for paving it basically supports or demonstrates the residents of Tasma and Fadoo their support of having paving, but it's not similar to a petition, the 60% and above in terms of the requirement is not a service area. A service area is typical to a or establishing a service area for a specific service is typical to water or sewer or something like that. So this process wasn't required this way, but it definitely demonstrates the desire to do something there. I did talk to Mr. Sutherland when he sent the email and the petition to let him know that we would put it on the next meeting agenda, and talked about some of the challenges with paving and or chip sealing, which is typically cost. But what we are doing and started this earlier this summer is we're in the process, maybe in Public Works is in the process of going through investigating some options around chip sealing potential gravel roads and bringing a report back to council. So we're looking at a report sometime in the fall to demonstrate what costs would be and what some criteria may or may not be, and if it makes sense from a cost perspective to do so, and to get council's thoughts on it also. Because typically local roads, which Tasman and Fadoo being a local road, that wouldn't typically meet the criteria specific to expending those kind of funds on that. But again, we can provide all that information back to council at that time, if council's okay with that. That was communicated with Wes at the time, Mr. Sutherland at the time, and he was quite fine with it and understood. And I did also indicate, some initial quotes that we looked at for potential test areas for chip sealing have been quite expensive. We were looking at maybe doing a test area down around the landfill road, where dump road pavement ends into the scale shack, and we're in the $100,000 range just for that little area. So it can be quite pricey. But what we thought was probably the best option, if council's okay, is to bring back that report to council and discuss it at that time when we have more information. And if council wishes, I can report that back to the group or anything else to Mr. Sutherland, who's provided this information.
Any questions for Mr. Barry? Mr. Councilor Andrews.
Are there any millings from the one runway left? That seemed to be really good dust suppressant, being used quite extensively around the community.
Not much. A lot was used actually at the airport to help provide access to the gates. So there has been some use. A contractor had the ability to dispose of it because it was part of their contract to dispose of the millings. We did look at potentially some options, but the big option that we took advantage of was, and Josh is quite happy about it, is at the end of the main runway, access to the gates was quite challenging and the light and nav aids, because it's just you're going over the natural terrain. So it's probably a good opportunity if council wishes to take a look at to have a tour of the project where it is and look at a lot of those millings were used actually to access that gate at the end of the airfield, close to where the airport connector and the airport drive connect, that area there. But there's areas that are probably, I would think, must be 3-4 feet deep in some spots of millings, which just basically pardon the pun, paved the way for the group. So not necessarily enough. You see some around town in the parking lot and stuff that's been donated by the contractor, but not necessarily enough that would have looked after a significant amount unless we were to sacrifice that area out there. But it was definitely an option.
Councilor Penny.
Would you like a resolution then about bringing back some more costs and that sort of thing that you're headed back? Because I definitely like to see before we just dismiss it as being way too expensive. Because I mean, this is ongoing maintenance and calcium is such a horrible product. Anyway, nice to see to get away from that.
So we are bringing back the report, but it'd be good to get a resolution to council. It also demonstrates the support that you're looking into it, that I can provide feedback for sure. And, you know, we are also looking at other options because dust suppressant and the report would outline the reasons for using the dust suppressant, which isn't just to keep dust down because of people don't like dusty roads, but it's also health issues, safety issues, and also cost savings from all that dust that's flying off into the bush is gravel. And that's why I have to re-gravel the roads. But we also did a test earlier this year with beet juice, which the test didn't go as planned. The application wasn't necessarily applied as it should have been, so the test didn't go as well as we had hoped. So we're going to probably take another look at that, which one of the advantages of beet juice, besides the disadvantage is more expensive, but one of the advantages is that it's not corrosive. So, which is one of the bigger issues when it comes to dealing with calcium.
I would make that motion then to have a report brought back to investigate all the possibilities and cost effectiveness of paving or chip sealing.
We have a seconder for that motion. Seconded by Councillor Roper. Before we vote on that, Mr. Barry, we've got a plan for things like sidewalks where we, we replace sidewalks when they're needed, and there is a thought out plan and a method for what gets repaired or replaced when and so on. Do we have something similar to that for rural roads as far as paving or maintenance goes?
So the road asset management plan. So we have an asset management plan for the urban roads and our asset management system and plan for our rural roads, which looks after the maintenance and upkeep of those roads, which that's where the graveling of the roads, ditching, things like that in the rural roads. Currently, there is no plan to pave any of those roads because that's the reason we're going through the process where we're currently going through in terms of investigating costs and what the payback and the potential savings for maintenance of the roads are. So in terms of a program similar to the sidewalks, absolutely. The roads program actually was one of our first asset management programs that we had.
And it's been working well for us, I think.
Well, generally, there's an annual contribution. So each year council approves about a $1.7 million budget for the urban roads, the paved roads, and then about $500,000 annually for the rural roads, which goes into that bucket, we call it essentially. So not every year do we spend that amount, but that's what looks after the paving in town, the curb and gutter, and of course the sidewalks and the rural road piece.
And I think some municipalities in British Columbia have reached out to us because of our asset management plan. So that's good news. When they're modeling their asset management plan off of what we have. So we have no plan. Like for instance, I'm thinking of the road down to the sanitary landfill, which is a dirt road, but we don't have a plan at some point in the future that this will be paved. This would be something that we would just consider on each individual basis.
Currently, yes, that's correct.
All right, there's a motion on the floor moved by Councillor Penny, I believe seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. And I'm going to assume Councillor Gerwing was in favor. Okay.
Yeah, Mayor,
Yeah.
do you need me to pop on every time then?
No,
It just
that's
ta-
okay, Councillor Göring. I'll assume you're in favor unless I hear it to the contrary.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought we were doing. It just takes me a minute to get off
Nope.
mute and then we're done. But if I
Nope.
have something to say, I'll just put my picture on there and then you'll
Yep.
know. Okay,
Sounds
thank
good.
you.
Council reports. Any council reports? Very well. I've got some reports. Mr. Michael Lee was in town. Mr. Lee is a sitting Liberal member of the legislature, and he's running for leadership of the Liberal Party. And we sat in these chambers and spoke for about 2 hours before he did a meet and greet at Mr. Wall's and then further at the Chamber of Commerce. At Mr. Wall's, Councillor Souls was present and did an excellent job of presenting the differences between rural and urban ridings to Mr. Lee, and I think he got it. I think he understood, how different rural ridings and urban ridings are. And there's a lot of good discussion. You know, I think all in all, we probably spoke to him for probably collectively about 4 hours. So it was wide ranging. We talked about everything from healthcare to the redistricting of boundaries in British Columbia. And we talked about the difference between Mr. Davies' riding here and his riding, which is this urban riding in downtown Vancouver, where he doesn't have any agriculture, he doesn't have any airports, he doesn't have any federal highways, he doesn't have any hunting, fishing, or a whole host of things that Dan Davies, our MLA, faces. And so I think it was a really good discussion that we had. I spoke to Charlotte Mitha from BC Hydro regarding our disappointment in BC Hydro's lack of interest in getting a crew here permanently. And once again, we sit here in the dark with holding on to BC Hydro's promise that they will be here in 4 hours, which I'm quite skeptical of. Well, perhaps if they're in town, that's great. If they were in Fort St. John today, it would be a different story. And we continued to talk to Ms. Mitha, and when we didn't get any progress, we talked to Chris O'Reilly, president of BC Hydro, and made the case to Mr. O'Reilly as well. And not getting the satisfaction that we wanted, we will be bringing it up with the Resource Municipalities Coalition tomorrow at their meeting. And I've also reached out to the Union of, or the Northern BC, North Central BC Municipalities Coalition, and we'll be bringing it up on their agenda as well. And I've spoken to Alaska Highway News and the Dawson Creek Mirror about the same similar issues. And I think many small municipalities in Northern British Columbia are facing similar poor service from BC Hydro, and maybe perhaps we can get some traction. And we will also reach out to the minister responsible for BC Hydro and make ourselves known to the minister about what we think of BC Hydro service in this area. That's it for me. Are there any questions from the public, Ms. McIver? Oh, Ms. Galinsky.
My apologies to Mayor and Council and staff. I was temporarily distracted from my telephone when you made your motion. I'm wondering what the motion was. Was it 1, 2, or a completely different resolution altogether in regards to the Historical Society?
Do you want me to respond?
Yes, please.
Okay, so council passed the resolution to support the scope of the project for the roofing materials to be allocated from general surplus. And then further to that, option 1 was approved, which is the $100,000 out of next year's budget, and waiver of permit fees and deposits.
So if we had already paid our
We'll refund it. It was. We checked on that, and yes, we noticed you paid it, so we'll refund it.
I just want you all to know, how grateful and thankful that we are.
Thanks. Very well. I'll ask for a resolution then that we move to a closed meeting pursuant to section 91 ILK 92B of the Community Charter.
So
Moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor? Carried. Adjourn the meeting, please. Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Andrews. All those in favor? Carried. And we are temporary. And I'll recall the regional council meeting to order. And Ms. McIver, do we have something to rise and report?
Yes, sir. So council rises and reports moved by Councillor Roper, seconded by Councillor Penny, to renew the town square complex and proceed with next steps as provided. Carried unanimously. The Rise and Report moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Penny, that staff bring back a report identifying potential land acknowledgement statements for council's consideration and direction, and that staff consult local First Nations communities and Indigenous stakeholders when drafting land acknowledgement statements for council's review. Carried unanimously. And further, moved by Councillor Andrews, seconded by Councillor Gerwing, that Regional Council approved the aircraft radio control aerodrome lighting system, upgrades to the runway surface conditioning reporting system, and airport sweeper inspection, servicing and preventative maintenance planning for a total of $74,600 conditional on grant funding. Carried unanimously.
Thank you. Having no more business before council, I will call this meeting adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Enjoy your
Good night.
trip, Lorraine.
Thanks so much.